The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
There goes that man's jockstrap. Oh my God, did you see that?
America's team? Yeah, right.
Oh, baby, it's a big day in sports.
There's nothing like battling it out with your teammates all season long to go win a championship.
Green Bay's got it this year.
Huge move for them. I think it's going to be a game changer.
We have a lot to talk about this busy week in the sports world. Welcome to the In a League of Their Own podcast.
The In a League of Their Own podcast is brought to you by Golf Kicks. Screw your shoes. By Canadips. Rep Sports. By Smooth My Balls. And by Streamer Loot. Check out the In a League of Their Own merch line today. Welcome to the show. Let's see what Austin and Collin are diving into today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 83 of the In a League of Their Own podcast. Kicking off today's episode with our number 83 sports fact. In the 1983 Super Bowl, the Washington Redskins defeated the Miami Dolphins 27-17 to win the franchise's first ever Super Bowl. The year 1983 was an interesting year for the league as it was shortened to 9 games due to a player's strike. In the second half, the Redskins scored 17 unanswered points while gaining a Super Bowl record 276 yards on the ground. So shout out to the Washington franchise. Moving over then into the NFL, what is the latest over there?
So the latest going on in the NFL, obviously with Hurricane Ida moving into Louisiana, the New Orleans Saints have been displaced. They do not expect to return to the city at all this week. They're going to be sharing facilities with the Dallas Cowboys over there. I know at least for 3 practices. I don't know how that's going to work with Dallas playing the opener on Thursday with them being in the building, if that's going to affect like anything as far as like room and stuff. Obviously watching the Hard Knocks documentary, that drone footage, that fucking place is a goddamn super center for the Cowboys. It's crazy what they got going on there. It's actually really cool, but you think another team might be infringing on that, especially since it's game week for them.
Yeah, well, the game is in Tampa, so I guess that works out as to because they're actually practicing inside AT&T Stadium from the reports I saw, because obviously the Cowboys are using their own practice facilities. And since it is regular season now, you can't have 2 teams practicing together because you're going to have, especially from the same conference, that's just a no-no. So, yeah, they're practicing inside AT&T Stadium. As you mentioned, the Saints aren't going to be returning back to New Orleans this week at all. Both teams are still undecided on a neutral site where they're going to have the game Sunday. And Sean Payton also said it's unrealistic for them to have it in Green Bay. So maybe they're going to have it in AT&T Stadium. I mean, who knows?
Or a college stadium.
Yeah, or a college stadium, kind of pick a distance between New Orleans and Green Bay. I'm trying to think.
And pick someone that's on the road so that you have the home stadium, since this is opening college football weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a game, an NFL game in a stadium that you just had a big college game in the day before. There's no way they're going to get that cleaned up in time.
No. But I mean, at the same time, Minnesota did that. When the Vikings were playing at University of Minnesota Stadium, they'd have games there on Saturday and the Vikings would play there on Sunday. The stadium will literally it just said Minnesota Gophers all over it. They wouldn't change it to the Vikings at all. So I guess so long as both sides don't really care. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that there isn't like venues and teams like raising their hand, like have it here, because that's bringing thousands upon thousands of dollars, if not millions, to that city, having an extra game, even though, yeah, it's not your home team. It's not, might be a rival, whatever it is, but nonetheless, you're having an NFL game in your city. That's bringing revenue to your city.
Yeah, the city, though, has to meet the requirements as far as like hotel capacity, parking, all that stuff, which is requirements. So there's probably a handful that they've probably reached out to that they're trying to make something work out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's interesting. how they were supposed to have week 1 home opener, and now it's, who knows how long it's going to be until they're even back playing in the dome.
Yeah, I mean, they said that Sean Payton said that from his understanding, there wasn't any significant damage done to like the facilities or the stadium. It's just a matter of there not being power anywhere. That's their biggest concern, and obviously the standing water everywhere, I'm sure. Um, but it makes you wonder, like, why right away? No, we're not going to have it in Green Bay because it's a 17-game season. The Packers technically have 9 away games, 8 home games, so they have technically that disadvantage. So, which every team does. Either we have one more home game, or we're on the road for one more week. So it's not like a regular 16-game season to where if this was last year, the Packers would be getting an extra home game, which they get this advantage where it's kind of hit and miss how many teams actually get that advantage this year. So, but also the Lambeau Field might not be ready either. They might be prepping for, I don't even know if they're home week 2. They might be on the road. I think they might be Monday night against the Lions. They're at home. So, but yeah, they might just not be ready either. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, I guess, what city and what stadium they decide to have the game in.
Yeah, and then another interesting situation. How do you think New England goes about dealing with Cam Newton and Mac Jones this season, especially since Mac Jones has taken 75 passing attempts during the preseason and Cam Newton has only had about 21? I know everybody knows that he's going to be the starter, but how far do you think, I guess, he's going to go during the season? Because you look at their schedule, their first 7 games, they should easily go 5-2. But then after that, how long do you think it is before the heir apparent steps in?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I think that the door is still open for Mac Jones to be the week 1 starter. Belichick is yet to name a starting QB. He hasn't leaned one way or the other. And a lot of analysts talking about this situation say that the tides have turned in New England. In their final preseason game yesterday, Mac Jones went 10 for 14, 156 yards and a touchdown, while Newton in 2 drives, 2 for 5 and an interception. So if Belichick was on the fence, and you're kind of have a lot weighing on this last preseason game, I give the nod to Mac Jones. And there's a lot of people who are kind of saying the same thing.
But at the same time, the preseason doesn't matter.
When you have a QB battle going, it does.
Cam Newton hasn't ran the ball once. They haven't given him one running play, and that's his bread and butter. You know that he's going to do that multiple times a game, and they haven't had him do that once all preseason, and that's to save his body.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think a preseason game, like most 90% of the time, they don't matter. But when you have QB battles going, like in New England, I think that this has a lot of implications on it. If preseason games didn't matter, Mac Jones and Newton, neither of them would be out there. It'd be their third string starter because Belichick is like, you're my number 1, you're my number 2, end of story. And you save both of their bodies, and neither of them would be on the field. But because Belichick is undecided, he wants to see both of them play. I don't know. I mean, I still think Newton has the edge, but Mac Jones definitely like closed that gap to where it's almost a coin flip at this point. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know. Bill Belichick is one of those guys. Again, he's not gonna probably name the starter until mid next week, just because that's the kind of guy he is. Because he doesn't have to. I don't know if there is an NFL policy that you have to name your starter X amount of days or hours before game time, even. But I don't know.
You just have to have your depth chart ready.
Yeah. So in that case,
teams pretty much know who's starting.
Yeah. But I don't know. It'll be interesting for sure. This last preseason game, like I said, in most cases, preseason games don't really mean a whole lot, but this last one, if it meant anything, Mac Jones won it by a landslide.
Because a lot of people are saying since there is no fourth preseason game and the cuts and stuff are like different this season, that week 1 is basically going to be like week 4 in the preseason where they're putting guys in situations where they want to see if they're going to succeed or not long term, which makes complete sense. Some people are even saying it could even linger on for some teams till week 2 to assemble their roster that they want to going forward during the season. And just like thinking of the whole thing, like we've both said multiple times, like starting a rookie quarterback who's not going to have success right away, you're just ruining his confidence for his career. Where it just seems Cam Newton's going to play, but the leash that he had last year, obviously, because Bill Belichick knew going even with Stidham or whoever weren't going to win a game. That's why they let Cam Newton play the whole season. And I feel like his leash, I guess, is going to be really short due to the fact that you do have Mac Jones, who is clearly is capable of doing well in the preseason. Now doing real season is going to be a whole different animal, obviously, because you're going to have starters coming at you and the speed is turned way up. He's going to take a lot more hits. And I guess preserving Mac Jones's career, if Belichick thinks this is the guy that fell into his lap like Tom Brady, I feel like it's all going to be part of a plan. Kind of, they're going to wait for Newton to play himself out of his starting job to where it's not like Bill fucked his career, like pulled him too early. I feel like his leash is going to be very short. Obviously, they should go like 5-2, like I said, in their first 7 games are very easy. But after that, I don't know if there's any struggle with being 5-2. Mac Jones is coming in. It's just, and Cam knows this too. He knows that he's playing week by week for his job too, because clearly he knows Mac Jones will get the job done. It's not like, oh, I didn't know this guy was coming. Clearly he's been battling with him all preseason and knows what he's capable of. And he knows one fuck up on my end and this could be the end.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill Belichick also playing that, I feel like helps Cam Newton too, because you're going to see the best of Cam Newton day in and day out as he's competing to continue his career, because I don't know if any other team he would fit in at this point in his career.
Only team I can really see him going back to is if Sam Darnold shits the bed in Carolina, and Carolina wants a homecoming.
Good. And he's looked pretty good though.
Yeah, and kind of going back to your point about what you said, that without the extra preseason game, teams are going to be using week 1, if not week 2, to kind of solidify their rosters. Do you see Cam Newton? If Cam Newton shits the bed week 1, you see Mac Jones week 2, or on the flip, while they're still using that week 1 as a preseason game 4, do you start Mac Jones week 1 if he shits the bed? No, you're not ready, and put Newton back in. Obviously, the first scenario sounds more likely, but kind of going back, kind of using your terminology at the same time, it could be the flip to where they put Mac Jones in. If he balls out 4 or 5 touchdowns, 300 plus yards, sorry, Newton, you had your time, but it's his show now.
Yeah, because they play the Dolphins, and the
Dolphins Newton or Jones would look good against them, probably.
Exactly. So I feel like in that case, scenario 1, if Newton does struggle against the Dolphins week 1, maybe that is it. I mean, like I said, who knows how long the leash is, because he's still, obviously Bill hasn't leaned one way or the other. It's still haven't decided. And who knows, all it is Newton's guy. One time he fucks up, Mac Jones, you're the guy. Like, it could be as simple as that. That's the plan in place. Like, Newton, you're taking the job. Just let you know, you fuck up, you're going to be riding the pine until Mac Jones. Mac Jones, until you fuck up, you're going to be the starter. Then we're going to go back to Cam Newton. But that doesn't make much sense. I feel like if you're going to put Mac Jones in, you're going to want to put him in to succeed, obviously being a young quarterback. So maybe this just could be another play where he learns the system for a year behind Cam Newton. They live and die by Cam Newton for one more season as they sign him to a 1-year deal. And then they let Cam Newton ride off into the sunset. And you have Mac Jones, who is 100% familiar with the system at that point, being the backup, running practice for a full year, that he steps right in and he's the guy. Like, that makes more sense to me as how the New England Patriots work, as they're so systematic with everything that they do. There's no like, oh, on a whim, they're going to go get, you know what I mean? Like, everything is, he's got a method to his madness. And it just seems like that could be, you know, the mid-season point, fall, or you let him go a whole season and you see how he does. Because that's like New Orleans too. Naming Jameis as a starter, that doesn't guarantee he's going to be the starter all season long. He fucks up, Taysom Hill's going to be you know, he's going to be right there taking stabs. So those guys, it's the same situation all season long, which is great because you have two guys battling, but also at the same time, eventually the team's going to have to get behind one guy. Like if you're going to go the distance, there's got to be one guy that everybody's okay. This guy's the guy.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a nice thing for Belichick in his situation with the team right now is he has plan A, B, C, D, E. All are good plans. When you have Mac Jones, who looks like he's going to be a young, successful quarterback, even though he was taken as the 4th or 5th quarterback in the draft, he looks like a top 2, top 3 in that class. Right now. And then Cam Newton, obviously, previous MVP. One of the first dual quarterbacks in the league, and especially with his size, even more impressive at that. So no matter what he does, it's going to work out for him. It's just a matter of one way is going to win you 1 or 2 more games than the other. That's literally the difference that this decision is going to make.
Yep, and that's what I was watching Skip and Shannon this morning, and that's actually legit what they said. There's like, you got Mac Jones in, you might get 10 wins. You start Newton the whole season, you might get 9. He's like, it's the one game really difference, and is one game really worth it to fuck up a rookie who's supposed to be, who's that ready, who if you just give him the experience and give him the time, who could be a very, very, very good quarterback for a long time. And I don't know how urgent, you know, I feel like if there is any debacle between who's going to be the quarterback, if there's any, week 4 will be the test. If when Tampa's coming to town, if Mac Jones gets to start, clearly he's the guy that, you know, Bill's like, all right, you're going to fucking beat this guy. Like, if there's any, I feel like if there's any question, that will be the deciding factor of who's going to take it for the season.
And kind of thinking about the Patriots situation where they had a losing record and missed the playoffs for the first time in a very long time, gives me vibes of the Packers 4 years ago. They dropped to a losing record, missed the playoffs. Next season, they missed the playoffs again. Makes you wonder if the same situation happens in New England, if you start to see a carousel. I think Belichick is the one guy who would stay. Obviously, he's built such a legacy there that he's going to be one of those guys that the only way he leaves is when he retires. But you might see a circulation of different coaches, moves in the front office, stuff like that. Kind of like how Green Bay moved a lot of stuff around and now went to back-to-back NFC championships. Obviously, I think that the Patriots are in a better spot going into their second year after missing the playoffs than the Packers were, because the Packers made 0 changes going into that second year, where New England, new quarterback, spent millions upon millions of dollars in the offseason.
And they got all their guys who opted out last year to come back.
Yep.
So they have 10 guys who had no wear and tear on their bodies last season. Like, they're looking really good.
Yeah.
And then talking about like front office changes, like this is a huge question mark right now that a lot of people are putting on Josh Allen. Yes, everybody knows he's a great quarterback and he's a very good quarterback, but his offensive coordinator isn't going to be there for much. He's going to be taking a head coaching job somewhere. Who knows if it's going to be this season, mid-year, after the season. Nobody really knows what the situation is going to be there, but that's what people are like, we really won't get to see how great a quarterback is until they have a different coach and can sustain that winning. Like Tom Brady, how many different coaches has he dealt with? Multiple. Rodgers, multiple. You know what I mean? Like, the good guys who continue to get it done with different coaches coming in and out are the guys who are stand in their own category.
For sure. Yeah, I guess moving on here then, kind of circling back to the Dolphins. Rumors circulate as the Dolphins appear to now be the front runners in acquiring Deshaun Watson from Houston. Originally, the Eagles were the most interested, but last week they got Gardner Minshew from Jacksonville. So obviously that closed the door on that. So Philadelphia now has Jalen Hurts.
Quarterback battle on our hands.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, Gardner Minshew, and
Joe Flacco.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be interesting there as well. But and the Dolphins, I'm sure, because you have until about halfway through the year for the trade deadline. I'm sure the Dolphins are going to be in a very similar situation where by week 3, week 4, if Tua's shit in the bed, they're going to look to bring somebody else in. I don't even know who their backup is right now, honestly, in Miami. So obviously that door is wide open to where if Tua can't do it, they'll look to bring somebody else in. And Deshaun Watson is that number one guy in the free agent market. Well, not free agent market, but
Jacoby Brissett's the backup.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good backup to have then, because obviously when he was in Indy and he had to step in, he was winning football games. So, but at the same time, Coach Brian Flores said that if they're ever going to look to bring somebody in, they're going to bring in high character people. He put high characters in quotations. So I don't know if that's a hit at Deshaun with his whole situation as to him saying they're not going to bring him in, but there's been conversations there. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the ask is 3 number 1s and 2 number 2s, which I just don't see any team. I mean, why not? I mean, if you're the Dolphins, I guess you have nothing to lose. If you don't mind putting your team in jeopardy for another, I don't know, 5 years. I mean, you just drafted Tua. You just kicked Fitzpatrick to the curb. And it's just like, now you're just going to go and fucking get the shot like that. It makes no sense for them to do that at this point. Obviously, everybody's still expecting him to hit the NFL exempt list by week 1. So I feel like that's going to be the indication if someone's going to make a trade and go get him. But if somebody's going to do it, Philly, Dolphins, I feel like those are the only places that are really, I guess, need a quarterback for the future. Because he's still young. You know, he still made the top 100 players in the NFL, which is insane. But I mean, everybody knows how good of a quarterback he is. That's no question. It's just, can he handle himself off the field? I don't know. Like, that's a quarterback is someone that needs to be in control of the whole team, especially someone like him who's got all that going on the outside. I don't know how well that's going to work out. Obviously, we shall see as time tells.
Yeah. I guess moving into injuries here then. Somebody coming off of an injury, Joe Burrow saw the field for the first time yesterday after tearing his ACL and MCL 9 months ago. He only took one pass attempt. I think he was only out there for one drive, but nonetheless, always great to see somebody coming back off an injury. And then 2 people adding to the injury list, big hits to these teams. J.K. Dobbins suffers a season-ending ACL injury. Gus Edwards now is going to be receiving the workload in that Ravens backfield. Another young running back, really going to be able to see what he's made of this year. And then T.Y. Hilton is expected to miss the first few weeks of the year after an apparent neck injury. So,
yeah, he's got 2 fucked up discs in his neck, and whoever their head coach, who's their head coach?
Frank Wright.
Frank, is it right?
It's like it's right. It's like it ends in CH, but it's Reicht, like German, I think.
Yep, Frank Reich. Okay, yeah, you're right. He made a comment this morning that says, yeah, there's no timetable on his return, and they're optimistic that it is not season/career ending. As obviously everybody knows, once you're messing around with your neck, it's no good sign. Neck, back, spine, anything with your discs, it's not looking good.
Especially when you're that old and you're T.Y. Hilton, like you don't need
And
to
he's their
keep
number one
playing.
wide receiver.
Yeah.
That Colosseum is going through it right now.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, they obviously have some young talent on that team. Jonathan Taylor.
That's funny. Did you hear what he said yesterday?
Who?
Jonathan Taylor.
No.
He was on this. He's like, yeah. You asked him like, oh, how was it like taking like not playing whatever in the last game? And he's just like, yeah, we're letting the young guys do it. And he's just like, dude, this is your second year. Like, that's awesome. You feel like you're a vet, but like, this is only your second year, and this is your first year as a starter. Like, you got to prove yourself this season if you're gonna make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny. But I mean, that's a good mindset to have. That like, when you ball out in your first year like that, like you get your nod of respect, and unless you shit your bed in your second year, you're respected across the league at that point, pretty much. But I mean, it sucks obviously having T.Y. Hilton go down, but Michael Pittman Jr. had a really good rookie season last year. So with T.Y. Hilton missing time, I'm sure he's going to be stepping into that receiver one spot. So yeah, hopefully he's back soon. Um, Obviously one of those historic guys who have been in the league for a long time, and you'd hate to see him end his career in a very cinematic fashion to where it's not like, oh, everybody knew this was his last game, to where it would have been like, oh, last year was his last game and nobody knew it. But yeah, that's all I had for the NFL. I don't know if you had any other points to throw out there.
Yeah, I just got 1 point. Speaking of careers coming to an end, the Detroit Lions have released vet Brashad Perriman just 5 months after they signed him to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. They added him as depth guy, but I don't know. Looks like he's not cutting it, as they drafted rookie Amon-Ra St. Brown with their first pick, who's supposed to be an incredible wide receiver. Tim Boyle, he's still out, ex-Packer for the Lions. He's having surgery on his thumb, so who knows how good he's going to be there. But like, that team with the new coach coming in kind of still has some big question marks surrounding that team.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody has high expectations for them. So I mean, if nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it. But at the same time, you can only shit the bed so many years, year after year, before the team completely revamps, whether it's ownership or, and then at that point, then you're setting yourself back at least 3 to 5 years as you're as you're doing a complete rebuild.
Yeah. Who knows? We will see. It's getting close.
Yeah, it is. Well, cool then. Wrapping up in the NFL then, our Monday segment, we'll move into that, our Ynot segment.
Sounds good. So this week, my Ynot is a handful of different college football questions as the season's kicking off this weekend. Starting off, who do you think tops the ACC and gives the biggest run to getting to the college football playoff?
From the ACC?
Yeah, besides Clemson, obviously. Who do you think gives them the biggest run for their money?
Nobody. I
mean,
mean,
there's 3 teams that are supposed to be pretty good this season. Florida State, they're supposed to be pretty good. NC State's supposed to be pretty good again, who took them to overtime, and then Miami is supposed to be almost back to how they were back in the 2000s.
I mean, NC State kind of just snuck into the top 25 rankings last year.
Well, they took
midway through
Clemson
the
to
year.
overtime twice.
Yeah,
They
but
almost beat them if their kicker went to shit the bed.
yeah, but I mean, you obviously beating a big team like that, you're off to a good track. But I mean, I guess out of those three teams, Miami's the only one that has been there, done that. They're kind of, it's been 5 to 8 years since they've been in that conversation of being a top team. Obviously, their defense has been the focal point. They got their turnover chain that they throw on every time something happens on defense. So it's just a matter of finding the right pieces on that offense. I don't remember who it was. Not Martinez. I can picture his face, but I can't remember his name. Their quarterback, but I don't know. I mean,
So, I should rephrase the question since it's or no. Does anybody pose Clemson a threat in the ACC?
no, not this year.
All right. Big 12. Does Oklahoma win the Big 12?
Yes, they do. Obviously, they're with them and Texas leaving to go to the SEC here in a couple years. That conference is going to be completely falling apart, basically. I think Texas is actually like the third or fourth best odds to win the division. So they're not even right. They're not right there with Oklahoma, but
And they have a
Oklahoma,
new coach.
Texas does.
Yeah, they have Sarkisian.
Oh, okay.
This is his first season as their head coach there.
All right. But yeah, I mean, they either have somebody transfer in or they have a walk on that's just amazing. That comes out of nowhere, and that team is always right there at the cusp of that top five. And aside from after that, it's a complete cliff that drops off with the rest of that conference. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma will win the conference this year again.
Sounds good. That leads me into my next question. Does Spencer Rattler, Oklahoma quarterback, win the Heisman?
I know he and I'm trying to think, running back from he was a rookie last year, so he's going, or not rookie, a freshman, going into his sophomore year. Big Ten. I'm picturing everybody's faces today, but I can't think of names. I know Spencer. Yeah, Spencer Rattler is, I want to say, the favorite right now.
He is the favorite, and he's projected number 1 pick.
Let me pull it up here quick just to kind of get an idea for. Oh, Bryce Young. That's who I was thinking of. Isn't he the running back?
No idea.
Oh, he's a quarterback. I know there's a running back. I can't remember who it was, but they're like, "Oh, watch out for this guy. You could be a dark horse Heisman." Yeah, I mean Spencer Rattler and then Bryce Young, two quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler at plus 650 odds right now. Looking at the rest of this list,
Are you thinking of Iowa State's running back, Breece Hall? He was just one of 2 running backs last season with over 1,000.
might have been. Yeah, like I said, I remember like watching not too long ago, like highlight reels saying watch out for him this year, but I don't remember the name.
So
Yeah,
said,
I mean, yeah, I mean Spencer Rattler, obviously on that Oklahoma team again in a conference that's depleted, he's gonna look really good. And unless, I mean, at this point, it's gonna have to be a dark horse person that comes out of nowhere and has an amazing season out of nowhere to kind of challenge him. So, yeah, it looks like he's gonna be the runaway Heisman this year.
Sounds good. Does the Big Ten get 2 teams in the college football playoff? Or no?
No, and Wisconsin's gonna shit the bed again. Ohio State, I mean, they're going to be right up there in the top 5. Obviously, probably in the college football playoffs again. I don't know. Wisconsin just gets to that cusp of either right at the top 5 or just outside the top 5, and either have too easy of a schedule to finish the year to get the respect to move up into the top 4, or they end up losing to one of those last teams that they're supposed to just dominate, and they end up outside the top 10. So, um, yeah, I mean, Ohio State's kind of out in the league of their own still in that conference. Puns intended there. Um, Michigan obviously has high expectations. Michigan is like the Dallas Cowboys. They're expected to do great things every year, and they just don't. Um, Penn State's not quite there. Wisconsin's going to be the closest team to give them a run for their money. Maybe Indiana and Ohio State. I think they were tied, or it was like 7-0 or something going into halftime last year. It was a really close game. I remember that, and then Ohio State ran away with it in the second half. But Wisconsin and Indiana are going to be the only 2 teams to make noise in that conference, aside from Ohio State. But yeah, Ohio State's going to be the only one to make it.
Sounds good. And then I have 2 more questions. Does Alabama win the college football playoff?
I don't know. It's tough because both Clemson and Alabama lost their starting quarterbacks. Obviously,
and
if
Florida's
one's
good and Georgia's good now.
Yeah,
And LSU is pretty good.
and
too.
Oklahoma with Spencer
And
Rattler.
Auburn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
There's a
say
lot
no.
of good teams.
I'm gonna say no. I say they get dethroned this year just because they lost Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Mac Jones. Yes, it's Alabama. Yes, they go and get the best of the best every year, but they're bound to.
It's not like losing to Trevor Lawrence, though.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I'm not saying I don't think Clemson's going to be the ones to dethrone them. I think it's going to be one of these teams that have been building for a couple of years. Maybe even Ohio State. Yes, Ohio State lost Justin Fields and who from their secondary.
And they lost their wide receiver. And they lost, what's his name? Ward was the corner. And then one of their wide receivers got drafted as well.
Yeah. I don't know.
And J.K. Dobbins is gone.
Yeah. Well, they got Master Teague though. He's a pretty solid running back. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of.
Was it that Sermon?
He's got drafted too. He's on the 49ers.
That guy's a fucking animal.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of those years where it's kind of the playing field got a little bit leveled because the top 5 teams all lost like big players, to where usually one of those teams, it's like, oh, they were juniors and they're coming back for one more year, and they just kind of like that LSU team with Burrow and Chase. They ended up running away with it because every team the year prior lost a lot of good players to the draft, and they got to keep their guys for one more year because they're juniors. So, but this is that one year where everybody's kind of trying to rebound from losing great talent. So, but just for the sake of seeing somebody new, I'm gonna say yes. Alabama gets dethroned this year. It's not going to be Alabama or Clemson. We're going to see a new team on top for the first time in like 6 years.
Sounds good. And then my last question. Does Jim Harbaugh remain the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines if they don't make it to the Big Ten championship?
I mean, I'm gonna say he does just because they've shit the bed for this long. I don't know. I don't even know how many changes they've made under him to where if it's the point that
not a lot, but their excuse that they kept giving him was he's never had a pocket passing quarterback that is his strength. Well, they had one last year, and how'd that turn out? So people are kind of putting him on the hot seat as this might be his last go around unless he turns the tide around to Michigan, or he might get bounced right back to the NFL as working as an assistant or something.
Well, he's definitely not going to make it to the Big Ten championship because, like I said, it's going to be Ohio State from the East, and then from the West, it's going to be Indiana or Wisconsin in the Big Ten
Indiana's
championship.
in with Ohio State.
Oh yeah, duh. I was thinking Illinois for some reason. Well then, yeah, definitely not because is Michigan in the East or the West?
Michigan is in the Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Rutgers. And then it's Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin, Nebraska.
Okay, Northwestern. That was the team I was thinking of right behind Wisconsin.
I was supposed to be pretty good this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the Big Ten, Michigan isn't going to be a top 5 team this year. So they're definitely not going to make the Big Ten championship. But with that being said, I think that Harbaugh gets the nod for maybe one more year. I think that they do better. I don't even know. I mean, last year was a weird year. Teams barely played 5 games with COVID and all that happened to where they had to postpone or forfeit games and all that. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's in one of those situations like Jason Garrett was in Dallas, to where
pretty easy schedule.
Michigan does.
They play Western Michigan, then they play Washington, then they play Northern Illinois, then they play Rutgers, they play Wisconsin, which will be a tough one. And then they play Nebraska, which they suck. Then they play Northwestern, then they play Michigan State, then they play Indiana, then Penn State, then Maryland, then the Ohio State's the last game that they play.
So
they really have 3 tough games all season. Wisconsin,
well, I could see
Indiana, Michigan, or Ohio State.
Northwestern too, just because of their defense. With how good their defense was, they dethroned the Badgers the last 2 years, basically.
Yeah, but if I recall, I think they had the most seniors on their team.
Oh yeah, Newsome, that Greg Newsome. He was their stud cornerback. He got drafted last year. I'm trying to think who else from that team they lost.
They lost their quarterback. He was a senior. I'm looking real quick here. Yeah, they do not have a lot of seniors. They have a lot of first-year kids. But I guess we'll see because their schedule isn't that, I don't think, that crazy either.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up their roster. Yeah, they had. Oh yeah, Peyton Ramsey. He was a senior last year. He's gone. They're none of their running backs they lost. They're all freshmen, junior, sophomore, freshman.
But like looking at their schedule,
But they lost their top 3 receivers. Were all seniors last year,
and their quarterback they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like that team's not. I mean, the Badgers I feel like are looking the best out of Big Ten besides Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think. There's nobody.
Second season for our quarterback is to give him more time under what's his name, the coach,
Paul Chris.
Because then, like this Saturday's, there's some big games, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, Alabama, 14-1. Georgia and Clemson, 5-3. Wisconsin plays Penn State. That's 10-12.
I don't know if Penn State is ranked.
19-12. They're 19.
Oh, they're 19. Okay.
Indiana versus Iowa, 17-18. Like, there's some pretty big games. I'm pumped. I can't wait to watch them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ohio State they lost a handful of key guys. Wisconsin, I mean, aside from the offensive line, but that's nothing. They just
Our defense, I think,
turn over.
awesome.
Oh yeah, Zach Bond, he went to the Saints, and I think like an interior lineman. I can't remember though. But I mean the receivers, I don't think they lost any. I think they're all going to be seniors this year. Most of the receivers, Pryor and who is the other one? I can't remember, but yeah, it seems like out of the top of the Big Ten, Wisconsin lost the least. I mean, yeah, you lose like the offensive lineman, defensive lineman, linebackers. I feel like those are the most easily replaceable people on your team, just because you have such a deep depth for those positions. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have high expectations just because of the way that they've done the past 3 or 4 years, losing to a team they should not be losing to and
All these
destroying their
running backs.
season. For what?
Badgers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 10 running backs on their roster.
Was it how many? What's the roster size for college football? Isn't it bigger?
It's unlimited. I'm pretty sure. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks. And then you said wide receivers. Let's see if any of these names ring a bell from last season. Kendrick Pryor.
Oh, the limit is 105. So it's
105.
double NFL.
Kendrick Pryor is one name that I remember.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we have redshirt freshman, Jack Dunn, who's a senior, white guy. Danny Davis.
That's who I was trying to think of. Yeah, it's gonna be Davis and Pryor, kind of the two.
And Jack Dunn are the seniors. Otherwise, everybody else is freshman, junior. But yeah, gonna be interesting to see. So that was the last or no.
Sounds good. Moving into the NBA then. Just one point to throw out there for today. Rajon Rondo is expected to return to the Lakers after a buyout from the Memphis Grizzlies. Looks like that Laker team is continuing to just keep stacking up. Obviously,
Vets on vets.
Yeah. So that isn't solidified, but again, if it's expected and it's out there and everybody's talking about it, then it's probably going to happen. So
I thought it was supposed to go through this afternoon at like 4 p.m.
Oh, it might be. Yeah, I just knew it wasn't official yet.
Because he got bought out. That was official.
Yeah, that was official.
And then he was supposed to sign, I believe, today or this afternoon. We'll see, though.
Yeah. Look. Oh, yep. As of 50 minutes ago, Rajon Rondo rejoins the Lakers on a one-year deal, $2.6 million.
There we go.
Yeah, that's all I had for the NBA.
Yeah, I don't got nothing.
All right. Jumping over to the Diamond, the Brewers won yesterday over the Twins 6-2, but lost the series overall 2-1. The crew doesn't get to enjoy their usual Monday break as they head out to San Francisco for a series with the Giants, which will definitely
games are nationally televised. Thank God.
Yeah, and this will definitely
Brewers are getting some pipe finally.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I watched a Brewers
I can't remember
game
the last time that
TV.
they've been on national television. Besides 2010, 11, when we made it to the NLCS.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time, dude. The Brewers have stunk for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And this will be a fun series to watch because there's a good chance it'll be a sneak preview of a matchup we're going to see in October. So,
Yep.
Marlins pitcher Jake Eder is expected to have elbow surgery, which would put him out for the remainder of the season as well as the entire 2022 season. The Rockies pull off the unexpected series win yesterday over the Dodgers with a 5-0 final. And lastly, an interesting trend has started in New York for the Mets, as Javier Baez, among other players, have started to give a thumbs down and boo the fans after every hit and home run. Baez stated that he's going to start bringing the same energy. If fans are going to boo them after a strikeout or a bad play, every time they do something good, they're just going to boo back. So that's kind of funny. But
yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, that's all I had for the MLB.
Good.
NHL, anything going on over there?
Ottawa Senators secured depth in goalie. They signed backup goaltender Philip Gustafsson on a 2-year contract. And then some continued comedy going on here in the NHL over the past weekend. Carolina has tendered an offer sheet to restricted free agent Jesperi Kotkaniemi on Saturday. As the ongoing battle between the Hurricanes and the Canadiens this offseason. 2 years after Carolina's star forward Sebastian Aho received a 5-year, $42 million tended as a restricted free agent the Canadiens offered 2 years ago on one of their top guys. Turns out, on Twitter, it was hilarious because they said people don't forget, and they put an offer sheet in on him. And unfortunately for the Montreal Canadiens, it seems like it's working because he is deleted playing as the Montreal. He took the Montreal Canadian logo off of his Instagram and off of his thing, saying that he's not there anymore. And I guess this comes after he was very pissed. The only reason why he's even took the deal, basically took the list of the deal from Carolina, is because for those of you who don't remember, he was scratched in the last Stanley Cup final game. He didn't even get to play, and he's one of their young guys who's very good. So it's going to be pretty funny. Pretty funny to see how this works out. Who's going to win? Because that's so funny how they took straight to Twitter and it's people don't forget. But yeah, that's all that's really going on right now in the NHL. Just a little bit of jibber jabber. I guess the Minnesota Wild, they signed vet Jordy Ben on a 1-year, $900K league minimum. Ben's 34 years old. Just bringing him in there to eat some ice time, I guess. But yeah, nothing really going on in hockey at this point, as things still remain silent. The hockey world has been very silent since the passing of Jimmy Hayes.
Is Spin Triplets back this week?
They started posting some stuff, but I still don't think that they're gonna do an episode unless it's one that they've already pre-recorded. Oh, they might drop one of those, but I don't think they're gonna do a live show for. I don't know. Hopefully they get back soon.
Yeah. All right then. Going into some other kind of sports that we don't talk about a lot. One being boxing. Last night, Jake Paul kept his undefeated record intact after going the distance with Tyron Woodley and winning by split decision. Actually got to watch the whole fight last night. Somebody was live streaming it on Instagram, so I watched it on there. I'm like, screw paying $70 for it, but yeah, watching the whole fight. I mean, I don't know. Woodley was pretty passive. I feel like he was waiting till the final rounds before he kind of turned it on, and by then it was too late because Paul had won 4 of the first 5 rounds, so he had to turn it on, and it was too late at that point. One fun part to see was when Woodley knocked Paul on the ropes, to where if the ropes weren't there, that would have been a knockout.
That would have been a knockdown. That would have been a knockdown, and he would have won the fight.
Yeah. So he got lucky there, but after the fight, they're calling out each other to do a second fight, and weeks prior, they put a bet on the line that the loser had to get the winner's face or name tattooed on their body. So looks like Woodley's going to do that, and they're going to be back in the ring. Even though I mean, there's a handful of names that are out there for who Paul is going to fight next. I know Nate Diaz has called him out. Conor McGregor's name's been in the hat, been thrown out there.
Spin Chicklets, Biz Nasty called him out.
Oh, really?
He would beat the fucking brakes off of Paul. That'd be hilarious to watch.
Dylan Dennis, who's an actual boxer. Tommy Fury, who called him out after his fight last night. And then obviously Woodley. So,
yeah, but even Tommy, he's not even a pro boxer. Like, he needs to fight somebody who's a fucking actual boxer who competes still.
Mm-hmm.
And if he can hold his own, then okay, maybe he can fucking do it. But until then, none of this matters to me at all. It's all money grab.
Oh, yeah.
Bullshit, dude. That's why I haven't.
He calls out, he calls out the people he calls out, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, because this kid sits around 24/7 and pro trains the box, and he calls out people who have families and day jobs and beats the brakes off them. It's like, what the fuck do you expect, dude?
Yeah.
Like fight someone who actually does the same thing that you do 24/7, boxing training and doing that shit. And then let's see who's laughing.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it ain't going to be him.
No. Well, Tyron Woodley was his closest to a real deal because he was a UFC fighter, but
ex-UFC fighter though.
Yeah.
Current.
No. But at the same time, Tyron Woodley's background in the UFC wasn't boxing because some of them are like jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling as their background. I don't remember what his background was, but it wasn't boxing. So that's not even his. As a UFC fighter, boxing wasn't even in his.
Every person he's fought has not been a boxer.
No, but
I'd love to stand in there and take on that fucking asshole.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think I could honestly do some damage against him. It's like people watching Tyron Woodley fight. It's like if he knew what he was doing, he definitely would have won because there were so many times where he'd throw the left and wouldn't follow it up with the right, or he'd throw the right and would forget to do the jab or like step away. Like he was very good at, he was the aggressor the whole fight as far as cutting off angles and doing all that. As far as he just looked like he didn't know how to throw all those combinations.
Even his stance was kind of awkward looking. Like you could tell he's not a not a boxer because even his stance was weird.
A kick right to his face.
Yeah, you could see so many times he had to just like break that muscle memory of wanting to
snap kick him right in the face.
He should have just did it. Took the DQ and just fucking knocked him out.
I hope somebody does something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sick of hearing his name be talked about in sports. It's like, congratulations, kid. Like, it's awesome what you're doing. Like, that's awesome that you want to be a professional fighter and you're training all the time and you're calling out all these people. But until you fucking fight somebody that's a legit boxer, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
That's like an NHL player going to a youth hockey pickup game saying, okay, 20-on-1. Let's see who wins. Like, it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
NFL quarterback taking snaps in a high school football. Like, it's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and what he's doing is not fair. Granted, the people are getting a nice payday for it, but still, for him to brag about it,
it's just disrespectful for the sport of boxing.
It's getting more eyes. It's getting more eyes on boxing, but people are taking boxing more as a joke, though. Because some of these top boxers are like, dude, just let me go pummel his face, and I guarantee you he ain't gonna pick up the mitts again. Like he would get very fucking hurt against some of those guys that know how to box.
Yeah.
Like Tyson Fury. He wouldn't stand a chance, dude.
But they're also 100 pounds of different. Well, not 100.
Well, I'm just saying, if they found someone his weight, I guarantee you they'd kick his ass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, even an amateur guy who's been boxing for 5 years would kick his ass.
Mm-hmm. Well, even last night, too, Tyron Woodley is, I don't know how, I can't remember what the height he was, but he was significantly shorter than Paul.
He's like 5'9", and Paul's like 6'3".
Yeah. So obviously that reach makes a difference too, to where Paul is exerting that much less energy to where Woodley has to get in that much closer to be able to land a hit.
And just watching, like if you've ever watched a pro boxing fight, like how fast their hands move and their bodies move, and then watching that fight, it's like super, super slow-mo.
Yeah, it is.
Like he wouldn't be able to dodge a punch, dude. Like he would be eating so many before he realized what was going on. Like those guys are the best of the best for that reason. And like it's cool that he's getting more eyes on boxing, but also at the same time, the people who are very serious at boxing are getting very upset as people are thinking like this guy's turning the sport into a joke.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know. Like you said, good for the people who are getting a payday out of it, but at the same time,
Pay me $5 million. I'll go stand there.
yeah, no
Put my
kidding.
hands tied behind my back and I'll let you fucking knock me out.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what he's setting up these people to do.
Yeah.
Except for not getting knocked out.
Yeah, it was kind of funny with the Ben Askren fight. I swear to God, he paid Ben Askren to get fat. I've never seen him that out of shape in my.
But ever since he stopped doing this shit, dude, he's a family man now. Especially living in Wisconsin, being a Wisconsin boy, dude, all those cheese curds, burgers, and beers.
Well, he still has he still has his wrestling camp, so he's like he still does that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but he probably stands there now and coaches more instead of being on the mat and out there.
That's true.
Like the Wisconsin lifestyle will get you one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's either the food or it's the beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, moving on to something else. The Little League World Series ended up wrapping up yesterday as Michigan ended up taking down Ohio. So shout out to both Great Lakes teams as being the last two standing.
Yeah, it was fun to watch witnessing two teams that definitely weren't expected to be there. Hawaii, South Dakota, California were kind of the favorites to like go the distance. South Dakota and California were on the same side of the bracket, so obviously it just would have been one of them two versus Hawaii. But
Ohio shocked South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up making it, and this was the first time I think since like 07 or 08 they said that this is the first time that both teams actually ended up battling through the losers bracket to make it to the championship. Because normally one team's undefeated and you play, and if the team beats you, then they play another game. They play two games that same day, where this time it was winner take all, and Michigan ended up taking it home. They were one of my favorites ever since I watched them and saw that number 23 kid who's 5'10", 180 pounds and just jacks the ball. Their team's pitching depth was unreal too. That's the first time I've ever seen in Little League where they've had like 8 or 9 different kids pitch throughout the whole tournament. Like usually you got 1 or 2 guys that kind of try to, like South Dakota, they had the one kid who carried them the whole way. If he couldn't pitch in the championship game or the game before, they weren't getting there. You know what I mean? Like most teams only have that one kid, where Michigan, they fucking did it all. Like they had the best batting average. They hit the most home runs. Their pitching was phenomenal, and give a lot of credit to their coach and how he set them up. All those kids were not scared to get hit by the ball. Standing right on the inside of the fucking batter's box and hoping to God that the pitch either hit them, and at that young of an age, unless the pitcher's a fucking dominant pitcher, he's going to be a little intimidated of you standing that close, not wanting to hit you. He's going to throw it outside, and that's where you slap him all day long. And they took advantage of it and ended up winning. That ump, though, was a little questionable, though. Early in the game, he was awesome, but like inning 3 on, some of those pitches that he was calling balls earlier in the game, or he was calling strikes, and it was like, dude, that's the one thing you can't do. Like, you have to be consistent, especially because that's how pitchers and hitters, there's no fucking, it's an imaginary box. So if the ump's not going to be consistent, players and pitchers have really no idea what the fuck's going to be called what.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see that their first championship win since 1959. So, yeah, that was awesome to see.
Yeah, it was the second time that Michigan's made it that far. And then Ohio, they've made it there, I think, 5 times in the last, 40 years, but they've never won it.
Oh. Cool. Yeah, that's all I had for today. I think. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I had as well. So yeah, thanks everyone for stopping by. Just getting breaking news coming in. Notre Dame's starting linebacker, Marist Liufau, undergoes ankle surgery, and the linebacker season is likely over, says head coach Brian Kelly. So that's unfortunate news for Notre Dame, who's always a top football. Their defense is always one of the top defenses in college football. So that's a huge loss there. But yeah, thanks everyone for stopping by. We appreciate all the support and love that you guys continue to show us. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to all the social media accounts listed below in the description, and also rotating on the video right down there. Yeah, we will be back on Wednesday. And yeah, hopefully we get some big news to talk about until then, because there ain't no sports really going on.
No. Sounds good. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.